cut it. It won't be like the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay. So, first, can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
first, will you describe your profession?
Yes. So I'm an animation design and visual effects recruiter, and I staff artists, animators, executive level people on movies, TV shows, commercials.
Are there any movies that we would have seen or commercials?
I do stuff for Game of Thrones and a bunch of commercial work. I did a bunch of stuff for Ice Age. I worked on Shrek, movies like that.
Cool. Okay, what type of schooling process did you go through to get to do what you do?
I was in the right place at the right time. But I studied film in college and moved to California right after college because I wanted to work in film production. And got my first job because I took an internship, which I think is really important for people to keep themselves open to. And got an internship on a project that was just starting up in San Francisco, and it was, we didn't know it at the time, but it was Nightmare Before Christmas, which was just starting out. So after that, it led from, I did a great job on the internship, I showed up on time, I had a great attitude, and then I got a job working on Nightmare Before Christmas, and from there just started working in production, and then moved into recruiting not long after.
Okay, that's cool. What challenges have you faced in your career, if you've had them?
Let's see, challenges. I just think, well, if you guys are focusing on women in business, so
do you think being a woman?
Yeah, I mean,
challenge?
I think it is a challenge. I think it's important to, not to doubt yourself and to really trust your gut and to trust your instincts. Unfortunately, I think it is a reality that everybody at some point will have their Me Too moments in whatever industry you're in, and I definitely face those as well. But, to really to steel yourself, to know who you are, to trust your instincts, have confidence, not to lose your cool, because I think there's times when you also just want to, either really let somebody have it or just, go into a corner and cry. And you don't, it's just sort of knowing your strength and trusting yourself.
This is random, but when you work, is it on a team or is it more individual?
Well, I used to work at different studios, so I worked for DreamWorks for a long time in-house at the studio, so I went there every day.
Right.
And then over the course of my career, I sort of saw the writing on the wall, and I saw that, it wasn't really just about me working for one studio. I could go independent and start my own thing and work for everybody. So now I have my own company. I've had it for about 15 years. And I go into my clients' offices, but a lot of it I can do remotely and independent. So for me, I'm able to live in Burlington and work from Burlington, and I have an office in New York, and I just go back and forth. So now I don't go in-house as much, and I'm independent, but I'm on the phone all day, and I'm talking to clients and talking to artists.
And what made you decide that you wanted to be more independent?
I felt like the realities of business and kind of seeing the writing on the wall. I used to, way back when, you could get a job with Disney and you could stay with Disney and retire with Disney and get a gold watch at the end. But, business is becoming leaner and meaner, and people are starting to really look at the bottom line. And I just saw that, as long as I could just go out on my own and, not invest in just one company and put all my eggs in that basket, the better off I would be.
Right.
So that was it was out of necessity and seeing what.
And it seems like you have your dream job, kind of it seems like what you do you really like to do. So what would you say to girls specifically that want to follow their dream and do it? Because I think as you get older, you don't realize that you get life is happening now.
and you just got to do it. Like, you know, I remember, I mean, I graduated from University of Wisconsin. I grew up in Chicago. It's not like anything was happening there. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to just move to San Francisco. And I slept on a floor, and you got to just go for it, because life happens, and if you don't throw yourself into it, then you'll never know. So my theory is, in general, is to always do it and know rather than always wonder. So I'd rather throw myself into a situation and know what the outcome was than always think like, oh, I wonder if I moved to something.
Yeah.
So life is happening, so take it on.
I think that's all the time.
Yeah. Go.
Okay. Well, I was wondering if you'd always had this interest in design and film, or if it was kind of something you discovered with the internship.
Well, I always knew that I wanted to be in a creative industry. So, and I used to do theater when I was in high school, and I just knew that I wasn't going to just have a corporate job. And then I studied film, and I made films, and I thought I'd be, in production in that way and working in live action. And then through my internship, I pleasantly discovered the world of animation and stop motion animation. And then all of a sudden that was like, oh, I don't want to do just film. I want to work in this specific industry. So, kind of staying on that track, but being really open to new opportunities and not really knowing what the next thing would be. And recruiting too was something that just sort of, happened to come my way. And I was like, oh, this sounds like a really cool thing that I'd like to do. I like people. I like working in a creative industry. But I knew I wasn't a hands-on animator, but I could really, have a good eye for the work. So then I just kind of, shifted into that. So I always knew I wanted to be in a creative industry, and within film.
Yeah.
But.
And why do you think it's important for women, if you do at all, to be in the industry that you're in? Why do you think your presence is important?
Well, it's the industry, a lot of industries, and it was a boys.
Right.
Yeah. It was just a boys' club.
Yeah.
And I think the more, even within the time that I've been in the industry, I've really seen a change in that. There used to be not a lot of female directors. Now you see that, at least within my world, all the animated films that are coming up are slated with female directors now. They're finally having a voice.
Yeah.
You think about, Brave was one of the first movies that came out with a female director, and it was such a big deal, and that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So
I feel like you can also tell in Brave that there is a female director, because there's I feel
female empowerment.
I feel like
exactly.
other movies, animated movies before with a women character, it'd always be
it's very
needing
gender
a girl.
roles.
And you've seen
Yeah.
it evolve over time, and if you watch the history of animated movies, and then finally seeing oh, there's all these other voices that need to be heard.
Yeah.
So I think when you see that voice, when you hear that voice, then it makes for the next generation coming up, they're thinking, oh, I am represented. I can do this. For a long time, it wasn't even within the realm of something that you thought you could potentially do, but you can, and you've got to, somebody's going to be that first voice, and then we'll continue to grow. So it's definitely becoming a lot more. There are a lot more minorities, a lot more women coming into the industry, which is great, and not just on the production side. It used to be that women were in production management, and then the men were the creatives, and now thankfully it's evened itself out.
Yeah. And did you have jobs before then that helped you with basic work skills that?
Yes, I always worked. I always had jobs in high school and college, and I always tell people, half of it is talent, and then the other half is showing up and being that reliable person. I'm amazed. I deal with people all the time. This is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed that some people, day one, I can see just from, do you show up on time? Do you check in? You confirmed today? Which was such a small thing, but I was like, oh, good, they confirmed. But that's part of it, is just being a reliable person and having a great attitude. That goes a really long way. So, you know, and I think I learned that through all of my, you know, I was always in the service industry. I was a hostess at a restaurant, you know, I mean, just really working with people and kind of knowing that, you know, you had to be a reliable person with a good attitude, and that, you know, then doors will open, you know. So, any other questions?
Maybe could you could you elaborate on your experience with in a male-dominated field? Like initially in the industry?
Yeah, no, I think it's really hard to be taken seriously. So I think, you know, and again, I think there were times where you were like, oh, this is weird. You know, like there were men, you know, it's a male dominant industry. I was young, and
when did you start working?
Right out of college. So, you know, I moved to San Francisco, and so it was 21. And, you know, and yeah, being taken seriously, and then also knowing when you were in a situation and like creating boundaries and, you know, getting yourself out of certain situations. And I think, you know, over time you find your voice. I mean, I think it's not out of the gate that you're like, okay, I know what, you know, it's sort of figuring yourself out. Even starting my own business, you know, I think the reality of like fake it till you make it is a real truism. You know, like I was like, okay, I'm going to open up my own business. So it's like I opened up my laptop. I was like, okay, I'm open for business. You know, and you're like, I'm going to make a website. And really just like, you have to move forward, and if you wait for the situation to be perfect, it's never going to happen. So, you know, kind of moving through it. And again, male-dominated industries, which is everywhere. Again, I think just trusting your voice and speaking up, not being quiet. And that doesn't mean you have to talk just to fill the space. I mean, when you have something to say, make sure it's something that's worth saying, but not to be intimidated by it. And I think now, God, it's such a refreshing time. Like, finally, people are recognizing that. So.
We didn't really talk about this earlier, but how did like having kids and being a mother impact your?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm very efficient with my time. And I was, you know, having kids, all of a sudden, you know, people would be like, yeah, let's have lunch. And I was like, no, because lunch is going to cost, you know, like, I was like, in addition to having lunch, I'm paying for a sitter, I'm da-da-da, you know, like, you're just very focused and very zoned in. Like, the time you have to work is like, you've got to focus on that. And then your family time, you have to focus on it. I mean, I work from home, so it's really like turning off the laptop, closing up my office, and being like, okay, I'm done working for the day. And you know, you're spread thin, and you're spread thin for a really long time. I mean, you guys are amazing. Like, now it's so enjoyable when you guys are all people and you can like do stuff. But you know, for a while there, it's really, you know, you're all hands on deck, and you're constantly needed by either work, you know, husband, kids, you know, community, anything. So I think, you know, it was some years there of just doing what you need to do, and giving it your focused attention for whatever part role you were supposed to be in that time. But I will say, you know, there was that temptation, you know, for me personally, and everybody's different, there was that temptation to be like, oh, maybe I should stop, and maybe I should just be full-time mom. But I'm so thankful for me. Like, I always wanted to know, I always needed to know that I could stand on my own 2 feet, and I needed to take care of myself, and like, God forbid, and like, I'd be okay. And like, I have my business, and I've got my income, and I have so for me, that was really important to always maintain that. So, you know, those were challenging years. Very hard, but I'm glad we did it. Yeah.
So just like on that topic, I was wondering how you think women should like kind of combat the idea that the men need to be like the breadwinners and they can like put their work above their family, but women are expected to like put their family and their kids above their work. Like, and how, if you have a job, how you can like kind of stay like powerful and like stay really passionate about your work, but also still like balance your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very fortunate. I feel like I did find a partner in crime who from day one we were like 50-50. I mean, we were totally in it together. So, you know, people made fun of us, but when the kids were really little, like we would alternate every other night, like tonight's your night, you get up, you know, and like I was, you know, it wasn't just my job. I mean, we both really shared, you know, Adam he cooks and I do the dishes, and you know, really it's a partnership. So I think that's important. That was important for me to find somebody that was totally on the same plane. It wasn't like, all right, now I'm gonna sit back while you know. I was like, no, we're not. So so that was important. Actually, oddly enough, Adam, when we first had Violet, I always said that I'd be the breadwinner and he could stay home. And then, you know, we had Violet and he's like, okay, I'm going in. I'm going to quit my job today. And I was like, you know, actually, you can't. And he's like, what? I was like, I actually don't want to be the only, like, that's a lot of pressure, you know? And he's like, oh, and I was like, so we need to refigure this all, you know? So I like backpedaled, but you know, that's also a lot of pressure to be the one to have to make it all happen.
And did you own your own business before you had kids?
Yes, I did. I started, I started, actually, Violet was 6 months old when I launched my own business. So I had Violet on the Nickelodeon dime, and then I launched my business at 6 months. So it was, you know, intense years, but I'm so thankful that I did it, and I'm glad that I went out on my own.
Does anyone have anything else?
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So who else are you